Hey, Adam,
What's up?
how do you know what you don't know?
I don't know.
Well, today we will find out.
I'm Adam Maness,
And I'm Peter Martin.
and you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice coming at you.
Coming at you, today's episode is sponsored by the Oxford American. The Oxford American is a magazine dedicated to documenting the complexity and vitality of the American South. Its award-winning annual music issue comes with a CD sampler and digital download. It's a must-have for any serious music fan. Recent issues have featured Nina Simone, Thelonious Monk, John Cage, and John Coltrane. Visit oxfordamerican.org/YHI today. That's oxfordamerican.org, and you can get a subscription for $25. Man, I've been reading the heck out of the Oxford American since they became our charter sponsor.
Yes.
I just read this awesome article on Fletcher Henderson and his incredible life story.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very short biography, but it was just amazing to hear, where he came from, his impact on the music we still play.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, I'm sure the writing style, the beautiful thing about Oxford American is you can go to Wikipedia page on Fletcher Henderson and get just the facts, ma'am. But, to hear it, to learn in such eloquent words and maybe even play the music a little bit going on.
Play the music and
it's immersive.
The photos,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so well written and well researched.
Feeling of the page. I've never been. We can't guarantee this, but I've never. Have you ever got a paper cut from Oxford American?
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't think it's going to happen. They got some quality paper down south in Arkansas. So,
But anyway, yeah, check it out again. oxfordamerican.org/YHI for that deal.
nice.
What are we talking about today?
Well, you're not going to be talking about much because you don't know nothing about this.
Man, I'm a little nervous about today's episode because this is revealing.
Well, look, we don't know what we don't know, and I think this is going to be fun. And
Am I wearing pants? I can't tell. It feels like one of those dreams.
Look, we all. This is the great thing about this music. It's an endless well.
Yep.
And we were, having drinks yesterday, and I think we talked about. I mentioned an album, or you said somebody had mentioned an album, which gave us the idea for this episode, which was, what to me was like a seminal recording, which you had never even heard of.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is no knock on you. In fact, I'm looking forward to, maybe we'll do this next week. We could do it the other way.
Oh, we're doing it next week the other way for sure.
But I think some of these, I tried to put a nice mix together, and full disclosure, I did check out with you that you didn't. I called out and said, you know this one? So these are confirmed ones that you never knew.
Yeah.
Like you were like, what? Huh?
Yeah, I would like to think that probably everybody has holes in their knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, just these, if you, from what I've seen from a lot of these, are in that era where I was really too young to hear it
Right.
live.
In
And
real
then by the
time.
time I was getting into it, it was kind of out of style a little bit. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like
Yep.
it wasn't the thing anymore.
Yeah.
So I could see how this would have happened. But I'm, another part of me is very excited about this because I know that these are going to be awesome because they were so important to you. And so I'm excited that I have this new listening list to check out. I'm excited for our listeners who maybe haven't heard of some of these.
Yeah.
That we have the Spotify playlist to check out.
Well, and I think I got a pretty good mix because there's definitely going to be some that I think everybody will know some of them.
Yeah.
I will be shocked, and please leave us a little comment in the YouTubes or wherever you'd like if you know all of them. I mean, I'm talking about know them. I will be very impressed because, some of them are a little bit obscure. They're all fantastic, I think. But you're right. They do kind of come from that era, my kind of coming of age, some kind of mid-'80s, late 80s. But there's a little bit of a range on there. But I think that this speaks more to to two things. One is just the endless well of so many wonderful releases of our music.
There's
that
a
are
lot
just
of great
value.
Yeah, there's a lot of great albums out there.
And then the fact that, we both kind of have always had this lifestyle of deep listening. Like we get into something and we really listen to it. So I always think that's more important than knowing every release of the year.
Yeah.
Is to know a couple of them really well,
It's so true, man, now that I think about it. I list for me Grant Green as one of my main influences.
Yeah.
But I really only know like 2 albums of his, but I know every track on both those albums so well and every note. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I consider that just a deep connection I have, even though I actually don't know his whole like later funky stuff. Like
Yeah. Oh, you played a little funky stuff.
a
on
little
me,
bit,
yeah.
but not as well as those 2 albums that
Yeah.
I'm so connected with. You know, so.
Sure. Okay, well, so the first one here might kind of be along those lines in that I know you know a lot of Herbie Hancock. This is the one that set off this episode.
Because it's a surprise, because
Yeah.
Herbie's like, our guy.
Yeah, because you were like, what? You never even heard of the record. And I think this did fly under the radar for a lot of folks. This is Herbie Hancock's album called Quartet.
Yeah.
And it's with Tony Williams. You
Yep.
ever heard of that guy?
I've heard of
Yeah. Ron Carter on bass.
Yeah.
And a very young, bespeckled Wynton Marsalis. And I want to say this is like 1981, 82, something around there, maybe even 80.
I think it's 80.
Yeah. Oh, it's 80. Okay. And so I'm going to just play a little bit. And this is one of the lesser known tracks on it called A Quick Sketch. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll start at the beginning. How about that?
Good.
And I remember when I heard this, man, I was like...
Yeah, so how old were you when you first heard this?
I mean, I was probably 13.
Influential.
I think it was 80, so I didn't hear it right when it came out, because I would have been 10. Oof. Yeah. Little Herbieisms, a little muted. Tony. So I'll just jump ahead a little bit to Wynton, real young Wynton, playing amazing though. And this is like, it's funny because they call it Quick Sketch, and this is very much like, I'm sure they just kind of, all it is that boom.
That vamp.
Boom.
Yeah.
Vamp, and they're just like grooving out for 26 minutes or whatever.
It's so funny. Like, I think I know how this blind spot happened, you know, because I got into Herbie through Miles, really, which I think probably a lot of young musicians who are just discovering the music, you know, you get the names of the Titans and then you start checking out. So I discovered Herbie, and then I just fell in love with Herbie, and I went through all of Herbie's, you know, early stuff from the Taken Off stuff to Main Voyage, and then the 70s stuff. And then concurrently would start getting into Wayne Shorter and then Joe Henderson, and then all of a sudden I have all this music to listen to. Yep. And this was also around the time that he put out that record, The New Standard. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like 97 maybe.
Right.
So I was in high school probably. Yep. And then I
with
just started
Roy and
with a ton of cats.
Brecker.
Yeah, just a ton
Jack
of Schofield is on it, like a ton of guys. And I just got into that kind of era of Herbie.
Oh, New Standard. I'm sorry. That was the one before the one with Brecker and Roy Hargrove. But there
was like an all-star cast on the New Standard, like which Herbie then would do a bunch throughout the rest of his, you know, career from then forward. But I kind of skipped over this whole era.
Yeah.
You know, I went from funky to the New Standard era, and then.
Right. Well, and the thing is, he did this record. I mean, Herbie has always been so prolific. This is right during the Rocket period, and that's actually how I got into Herbie Hancock. Because when Rocket came out, I mean, I was trying to be like a DJ for a minute. With, you know, and I knew a little jazz, but I wasn't even really that into it. I mean, I was kind of into it. I was doing some classical stuff, but Herbie, that was a big hit, Rocket, at that time. Yeah. And then, so this is saying, Spotify saying this is 1982, maybe when it came out. But when I met Wynton Marsalis around in 84 or so, I went and tried to find all the records he was on at Streetside Records, and this was one of them. And I still remember like how it looked. And I bought it. It was a double album. I was like, damn, it's kind of expensive. It was opened up. And I basically got it because Wynton, but I was like, oh, Herbie Hancock. Yeah, I kind of know
from
Herbie.
The Rocket guy.
From the Rocket guy. And I'd heard a little bit of stuff with Miles or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, man, it was so exciting just to hear. So this is, in a lot of ways, my really early entree into Herbie. And then I went and dove deeper. And then when I heard My Funny Valentine, it was like lights out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little too young for Rocket. I know it as like a cultural touchstone, but I didn't experience it because I was just, you know, a little kid.
Yeah, it was a big deal because it was on MTV. It was like a hit, and it was on MTV at a time when, especially that kind of music was just sort of it was kind of a breakthrough thing. I mean, Michael Jackson was in a different way, and obviously on a much bigger scale.
But to have Herbie Hancock on MTV, #1 album, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was cool. Right. Okay, so that's number one.
All right.
Now, next, I'm going to play you something. We're not doing it as a blindfold test, but I just wanted to know if you...
Yeah, it's unfair blindfold test because I've admitted I don't know these things.
All right, well, let's just listen to this. I mean, this was another one that was, like, really exciting for me.
Whew.
Chops.
So specific. What is this?
Okay, so this is Kevin Eubanks' opening night. This was his first record on GRP, and I'm just looking to see
GRP.
Yeah, GRP. What about that? Dave Grusin. Okay. Does it tell you that, like, I'm trying to get my Spotify chops together. Can you help me after our broadcast today?
Yeah.
I'm kind of switching over from Apple Music. Big shout out to Apple. Keep on dominating.
Yeah, nice dongle you got there, buddy.
I'm living that dongle lifestyle. But I want to say this is like 85, but this was Kevin Eubanks, yeah, 1985. Okay, talk about 80s. We're gonna have to get this art.
Oh
up there,
yeah, look at that album cover.
he's full Miami Vice.
Is that like a
Kevin.
leather suit or something?
Pleather, my
Pleather.
friend.
It's like an Eddie Murphy look.
It's totally,
Yeah.
it's totally. Kevin Eubanks, buffed, of course, and so this is that was Branford and Kevin. A lot of the Berkeley guys.
What's the name of the album again?
Opening Night.
Opening Night.
And I love that track. And Tommy Campbell's on drums. But the reason I really got into this record, I mean, I knew about Kevin Eubanks, but this is when I was really getting into like what are the new albums and stuff. And Branford was on there, but Kenny Kirkland was on this record. And I'd heard Kenny live like earlier that year at Powell Hall, and I was like, oh, anything that Kenny Kirkland was on. So that's when I got into it. But this is such a great record. He's made a lot of great records, but this is a good one for.
I got to check that one out.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I'm kind of late to the game on Kenny Kirkland too.
Yeah.
But I've started getting into him in the last couple of years, and it's been a great discovery.
Yeah. I mean, he was, since I heard him live and then, heard him with Wynton Marsalis that first time, and then I heard him with Sting the next year. Like, I was such a fan, but he didn't make his own record till later on in his career. And I believe he only made one or two records under his own name. So he was always, I would always just buy stuff that I saw him on.
Yeah.
Like
but
we used to do.
Luckily, he was on a lot of stuff.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so so that's Kevin Eubanks' Opening Night. Now we're gonna do a little Buckshot LaFunk, and this was funny because I was like, "Have you heard
the what?"
Yeah, you were like, "What?" And I was actually surprised you hadn't heard the name, but I realized that this is Branford Marsalis. He had a band called Buckshot LaFunk, and that was actually, I think they did 2 records. This is from the first record.
That sounds like some crazy New Orleans guy that they actually knew,
But he put this whole band together. Our friend Reginald Veal was the original bass player.
Yeah. Cool.
And then later on Eric Rivas, and then it kind of moved back when he went back to having his quartet. But this is when Branford was like, I'm not going to do the jazz thing straight ahead. I want to do kind of a hip-hop funk kind of New Orleans
I have
band.
no knowledge of this.
Okay, well, you're about to. Knowledge is about to be dropped.
Yo, peep the situation. My dictation is a splendid rhyme that proved race discrimination never ended. 7 years.
I'll tell you
ago,
what,
the
man.
dream first started, but it seemed like it died with Dr. King when
I
he
am a
was
sucker
born.
for this
How's that?
organic 90s conscious hip hop.
Yeah.
I really am. I could.
We was kings from the root, and they knew that. Now we
And I'm
just
just going to
another
check
bullseye
here.
for them to shoot.
And this is
Here's a
super.
prime example in today's
How do you do the
era.
thing where you make it softer? Oh. This is my first time DJ. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
Not on this album.
You're not
I wish
doing a
it
very
was.
good job.
Well, I was just looking because I thought that was DJ Premier, and I'm just confirming that before I screw up. Yeah, he did most of the programming and the drum tracks and stuff on
So
here.
then is there points where Branford blows over that?
Yeah, exactly. So let me see if I can jump to that. And this is actually Breakfast at Denny's, which is funny because it's kind of an add-on track. There was it's like a different version. There was another one that was on some movie they came out where it got a little bit of notoriety. But this is from that first Buckshot LaFunk record. I mean, it was like
Man,
Roy
Buckshot
Hargrove
LaFunk.
and- Yeah, let me see if I can get a little bit of solo. I got to get the album.
Just how it used to be. You better pray to
This is kind of and he's played this tune before. Roy Hargrove, a bunch of slick horn stuff. But Kenny Kirkland's on this record too. Bob Hurst plays some on it. Actually, is it Bob or Reginald? Reginald played in the band when they went live. Jeff Watts. I mean, a bunch of cats. It was just a cool thing where Branford kind of brought his whole Orban, DJ Premier, and Victor Wooten's on some stuff on bass. Like he just really a very produced kind of early jazz, hip hop, whatever you call it, synergy.
I love it.
Love fest.
I'm saving it.
Yeah, Buckshot LaFunk. And it's cool too because it sounds dated, but not in a bad kind of dated way. Like you brought it up, that kind of early '90s sort of vibe, late '80s, early '90s definitely. Okay, so that was my first funny. And there's a lot of New Orleans connections on here too. My funny name one.
That's definitely a weakness in my arsenal. Of
So
knowledge.
the next one I threw at you, I was like, "Have you ever heard of Lofty's Roach Souffle?" And you're like, "Come on, man!" But I mean, you literally never heard of it. And this one's a little bit offbeat, but let's just listen to a little bit, and I
Yeah.
want to see if you.
I have no idea what this is.
Okay.
Interesting.
So this is Harry Connick Jr. Trio.
I was gonna say it's a pretty high production value.
Yeah. This is I love the way the drums are recorded on this record.
Yeah.
Ben Wolf on bass, Shannon Powell from New Orleans on drums. And they had a nice trio for a while. They became the foundation of his big band because right around this time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember because I was actually hanging around a little bit with Harry when I first went to New York.
Yeah.
And I met Ben actually and Shannon through Harry, and he was just doing little gigs and kind of like, I gotta have a trio together. And then he did that movie Harry Met Sally, and his thing just sort of blew up. And then he put a big band together, and this was the original rhythm section. For him.
My parents, when I was a small kid, maybe like 8 or 9, had a Harry Connick Trio tape. I remember it was a cassette tape that they used to play in the car all the time.
Could have been this,
and it was all instrumental, and I loved it.
Yeah. He doesn't sing it all on this, and but it's actually says it's released in '90, but it was probably recorded in '89, I would think. But Harry was like super Thelonious Monk influenced, as you can hear. And I love the way Shannon and Ben Wolf, Shannon Powell and Ben Wolf played together. I thought it was a cool trio. It was kind of short-lived, but I heard him live a bunch of times.
As famous as he is, Harry might be an underrated pianist.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Made amazing pianist, great writer, great arranger. Done a lot. Can do a lot of different things, a lot of different styles. So that's. But that, I mean, to me, is one of the best trio records of that era. Actually, I would have to say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'm checking it out.
Yeah.
Or maybe revisiting.
Yeah.
The same one.
Okay, so we might have to take that one off. That ones he never knew. He never knew that he didn't know it.
I don't. But that's,
how do we know?
I think that
know?
counts. If
That's
it's not like a touchstone,
Okay, so next now we're at number 5.
Okay.
And this is, I yelled out to you, do you know Diamond in the Rough? This might be another one that you have heard, but didn't know you knew it. Roy Hargrove, Diamond in the Rough. This is his first record, and a lot of people didn't necessarily sleep on it, but weren't hip to Roy, because I knew him since we were like 15, 16 years old. He was sort of in my consciousness, and so when it was kind of a big thing when his record came out, but a lot of people kind of discovered him later. Sorry, somebody's calling. I'll call you back. All right, peace. We're doing a podcast. All right, so this is a tune I've always liked, and I got to play with him a bunch of times later on, which was fun, of his called Confidentiality from Diamond in the Rough.
What year is Diamond in the Rough from?
Oh, man. This has got to be 90. Let me, how do I find that out on Spotify? Help me out. Oh, 1990.
Yeah.
1990. Okay.
That's so good. Who's that?
That's I think it's Antonio Hart and Jeff Keezer on piano. Ooh. Our friend Jeff Keezer.
Man, you know what's amazing about that is it sounds like Roy Hargrove. He was fully formed.
Yeah, exactly.
He had a sound already.
Yeah, that's definitely Antonio. I need to confirm that, but I'm 90% sure that it's got to be.
Yeah, this one's a little bit embarrassing. I should have gone all the way back, but I admit that 90 I was still too young to really. I mean, I think I was just getting into jazz, but really just into Miles and Bill Evans and all that stuff.
Right.
So I probably didn't hear Roy for the first time until mid-late 90s.
Right, and what you probably did, and I've done this a lot, is once you start to get into him, he was so young. He was like 18, 19 when he recorded this. This actually says December 89 it was released, another source. But you kind of go to the current thing, and then he starts doing other things, and then you never quite make it back to the beginning. And a lot of times it's kind of more immature releases, and I mean, Roy looks like a little kid on the cover of this record. It's funny. Awesome. And so, but what's so cool about this is, that's right, Ralph Peterson Jr. on drums, is that I love the tunes on here. There's a tune called Proclamation by Jeff Keezer. It's one of my favorite tunes from this era.
Cool.
This Confidentiality, and then they do like Whisper Nod and some. But I remember just being like, wow, man, this cat is doing it. Like this is, and it's so much captured that Young Lions, early 90s, late 80s kind of a sound in a way.
Man, this is awesome. I think we should do this again next week, but another one for me. Right, I'm getting a ton of stuff to listen to. This is great.
And then Roy, he's already Roy, of course.
That's what's just that first impression. It sounds like a Roy Hargrove album.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So that's cool. So that's Diamond in the Rough, Roy Hargrove. Now this one, this was another one. I was like, Sonic Trance, and you're like, what? But I think most people slept on this record, so I'm going to give anybody a pass. But I love this record. It's totally offbeat. Nicholas Payton, and it was fun because I got to play a lot of this music with him right after he wrote it down in New Orleans. And I want to say it was like 10 years ago, but this is going to be funny because it's going to probably be, much later. I'm going to look that up as we're listening to Cannabis Leaf Rag from Nicholas Payton. No, that's still Roy.
Buddy, get your Spotify game
Come
together.
on, man.
Come on, dude. I like it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is just a fantastic album.
That's awesome.
It's like, of all the different people, especially around the early 90s, I mean, not early 90s, early 2000s. This is 2003. I wasn't that far up by saying 10 years, 15 years ago.
No.
But of all the people kind of trying to do, fusions of hip hop and jazz, I think Nicholas was one of the most interesting, authentic, challenging, and just grooving. Now, big shout out to Kareem Riggins from Detroit, Michigan, the great drummer, because he programmed a lot of the stuff. It was a real collaboration with Nick. Yeah, I mean, just a genius of amazing jazz drummer, amazing hip. I mean, just could do everything. But this is a great record, Sonic Trance, Nicholas Payton. I'm so I wasn't even sure if it was going to be available.
Man, I'm going in.
And then look,
hard
he's got. I'm going to do a little.
He's so funny in his music sometimes.
This is Cannabis Leaf Rag 2, second part. Later on, it's got like 18 tracks.
Wow.
Where he kind of changes it up. Yeah, so that's a good one for, especially if you're into some different kind of stuff in Nicholas Payton. So that's 6. We're up at number 7 now.
This is awesome.
Okay, so this one I knew you'd been asking about some New Orleans stuff that you didn't know that you were interested in.
It's definitely a gap for sure. Yeah.
So this is a fun one. This is Herlin Riley's album New Directions. This is Tutima, which is an old standard in New Orleans.
Dude.
Nice tambourine work from the master.
Huh. Who's on that piano?
I have no idea. I should know that. Let me look it up.
Oh, this is my jam.
Emmett Cohen on piano.
Emmett Cohen on piano?
That's not right.
Come on.
Is that right? Maybe. That's Herlin singing. So this is just a really fun record. He goes through and does a bunch of the New Orleans stuff and some of his own originals, and it's a cool one. Our friend Nate Shinen, how do we say his name?
Shinen.
Who you've been reading his book, gave this, I remember, a really good review in the New York Times. This is pretty recent, 2016.
Yeah, so that could be Emmett Cohen.
Yeah. I don't. The problem is you can't find out easily who's. You got to like search all these places.
It's the worst. Honestly, all these streaming services need to get their album credits thing together.
Yeah, it is. It is Emmett Cohen, Russell Hall on bass, and I mean, Herlin is just the most authentic bridge of modern New Orleans jazz drum. I mean, just jazz drumming, just drumming.
Yeah.
But I mean, his along with Shannon Powell as well, who we heard earlier with the Lofties Roads to Play, just two masters of New Orleans drumming in the most authentic but up-to-date way you could find. So,
man, Pete, thanks for this. This is going to give me some like solid listening material for a long time.
I hope so.
So,
I feel like I hear something now. Is that possible?
Sorry, this is my YouTube.
Oh, that's cool. Sounds good.
I was watching some Mayor Pete videos this morning.
I love Mayor Pete.
Dude, Mayor Pete's my guy.
Man, how do we get him on the podcast?
We need to get Mayor Pete while he's still small.
While he's still available.
Yeah,
all right. If we got anybody out in the You'll Hear It audience that has connections to Mayor Pete.
But no, you, Pete.
Yeah.
Kind of the mayor of You'll Hear It town.
Oh, God.
Thanks for that. It's really awesome.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. So, again, to remind everybody that for a limited time, you'll hear it. Listeners can subscribe to the Oxford American for only $25. Visit oxfordamerican.org/YHI to subscribe today. Can't recommend that enough. Until tomorrow,
You'll hear it.